Welcome to the Fall Churches Against Trafficking meeting. We are thrilled you're here. I'm Rihanna Contreras. I'm the Program Director of Community Relations with the Center for Justice and Reconciliation at Point Loma Nazarene University. I have the privilege of coordinating the CAT network, which I'm so honored to do. This is such a neat community, and I'm just so grateful to all of you for showing up on your Thursday evening after work or life or whatever you're up to. So I have a few quick announcements, and then I'll introduce the wonderful speakers who have joined us tonight. And while I'm getting us started, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat with your name, a faith community if you have one, and any anti-trafficking related opportunities or events you have to share. That way we can see who's here and connect with each other. If you are new to Churches Against Trafficking, welcome. It's been around far longer than I've been part of it. The incredible history is on our website. And the goal of this network is to connect people from the faith community, both individuals and churches as a whole, to make a meaningful difference in the injustice of human trafficking by working in partnership with local direct service organizations who we think are really the boots on the ground in this movement, doing all the heavy lifting. So we do that through educating the church community, engaging and equipping folks to take action, and lifting up our voices in prayer. We currently meet quarterly. Anyone is welcome. And let's see, I have a slide here for the next one. Our next meeting will be, I'm really excited for this. It'll be in combination with a large community event in January, co-sponsored by the Center for Justice and Reconciliation and Rotary International. We're going to gather all our partners in San Diego County and do kind of a showcase of all the different solutions to end human trafficking happening in our area, from prevention to intervention and recovery. We just started planning it, but I'm really excited. It's going to be incredible. So save the date, Friday, January 21st, 2022. It'll be both in person in Point Loma and live streamed online. So stay tuned for registration information on that. If you're not subscribed to our monthly newsletter, head to churchesagainsttrafficking.com and definitely subscribe. It's on the bottom of our homepage. Those monthly newsletters have tons of great resources for you anyway. And then our next announcement is our Churches Against Trafficking Christmas gift drive is coming back this holiday season. So we are collecting wish lists from the residents of local direct service organizations that serve human trafficking survivors. And we're pairing each organization with one church or community group to collect and donate their Christmas gifts. So if you'd like to participate, we'll match you with an organization and you'll receive an advent calendar with 25 days of gifts for the survivor residents and a link to their Amazon wish list where you can purchase the items. So you can share the list with your congregation or community group, and they can purchase the gifts at any time. They'll be mailed directly to that organization. It's so easy and has such a huge impact of providing really thoughtful gifts to these survivors during the holiday season. So again, if you'd like to adopt an advent calendar to donate Christmas gifts to survivors, please email cat@churchesagainsttrafficking.com, and we will get you connected to one of the organizations in our area. And with that, we get to hear from our speakers this evening. And as you listen to our speakers tonight, if you have any questions, we invite you to enter those in the chat, since we'll have plenty of time for Q&A when they're done sharing. And you can also send your questions directly to me if you prefer. But as a follow-up from our last CAT meeting, where we had a panel discussion around the stolen documentary, our community really wanted to continue the conversation on what it looks like to protect youth from human trafficking recruitment, especially when it comes to vulnerabilities like foster care and homelessness. So let me stop screen sharing so you can see our wonderful speakers here. Tonight we get to hear from Kaitlyn Wilson, who is a housing coordinator and therapist with North County Lifeline, and she's going to share about how homelessness and foster care, as well as technology, create vulnerabilities for youth to be recruited into trafficking. And then we get to hear from try to combine your names into one. That's a fun one. Missy Bell, who is the Church and Community Engagement Associate with Olive Crest, and she's going to share about how churches can engage in the Safe Family for Children program that provides a continuum of care for youth and prevents the vulnerabilities that occur once they enter the foster care system. So we'll hear from both our speakers, and then we'll do Q&A with both of them together at the end. But Katie, I'll go ahead and turn it to you. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and further introduce yourself. We'd love to hear more about what you do with North County Lifeline.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. As was stated, my name's Kaitlyn or Katie, either one, Wilson, and I work at North County Lifeline with our anti-trafficking and survivor support program called Project Life, and stands for Living in Freedom from Exploitation. So yes, I have my master's in mental health counseling, and I'm an associate professional clinical counselor. So I'm excited. I'm just going to share my screen, if that's okay, Raina, to pull up my presentation. Has a little bit about our program in it, so I'll get more into details with that. Okay, I don't think I need sound, but let me put it in presenting mode. Also, what's my time? I just want to make sure I stay on time. So what's my time split? Is it like 20 minutes, I think you would say?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I pay attention. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys for being here. It means a lot to me. This is my day in and day out work, and it's also a passion of mine. So when people show up to learn and to grow and to fight against human trafficking, I get really excited. So let's just dive in. So essentially, like stated, we're gonna talk about the intersection. There's a huge intersection between foster, kinship, group home care, and CSEC or human trafficking. And we'll get into the definitions of all of those. So hope you can be along for the ride. Disclaimer, I do want to say this up front. The content discussed throughout this training and this presentation does have some serious and sometimes graphic nature. So receiving this info can evoke strong feelings. So if at any point you feel overwhelmed or you feel triggered and you need to step away, obviously definitely respect that. If you need to just take a moment or a pause, feel free to do that. We want everyone to feel comfortable, and I will, as always, be available for questions after. So tonight we're going to define elements of human trafficking and CSEC, and then potential risk factors for CSEC, homeless youth, foster care youth, and then just really identify those vulnerabilities and the link between all of those and human trafficking and CSEC. And then of course, we're going to give you action steps and how you can be a part of the solution. So a little bit about North County Lifeline. North County Lifeline as a whole, its mission is to build self-reliance among youth, individuals, and families through problem-solving, skill building, and accessible community-based services. So we have many programs at North County Lifeline, not just Project Life, although I'm biased and Project Life's my favorite, but we work on developing resilient youth, nurturing strong families, and partnering to solve community problems. So specifically, Project Life, like I said, stands for Living in Freedom from Exploitation. It was established in 2011 after there was a big op that brought about, the rescuing and the identifying of a significant amount of survivors. And we work from there. We were established to work in collaboration with law enforcement and other agencies within the county to support victims and survivors. We provide victim advocacy programs for victims of sex and or labor trafficking and CSEC, which we'll define a little bit later. We do serve men, women, boys, girls, and LGBTQIA plus community. Services include emergency response, which we do with the Human Trafficking Task Force here in San Diego County, and then intensive case management, behavioral health therapy, and trauma-specific treatment, as well as prevention groups and support groups, and then community engagement and education like this. So let's start with a few definitions just so we can all be on the same page. Human trafficking defined is essentially the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or sex slavery. So if the person is a minor, force, fraud, or coercion do not have to be proven, but they're usually present. So that's kind of the legal and, succinct definition that we all go by. And then the commercial sexual exploitation of children, or to shorten that really mouthful of words, we call it CSEC. This comprises sexual abuse and remuneration in money, goods, services, or the promise of money, goods, or services to a child or a third person or persons for the sexual use of a child. So essentially, CSEC really is human trafficking of children. So it's just a different way of putting it. And like we said, when there is legal implications, force, fraud, and coercion do not have to be present to prove CSEC because they are minors. So there's just some stats around this, I think, that are really important. 100,000 to 300,000 youth at risk for CSEC in the United States annually. And then 1 in 6 runaways reported to the National Center for Missing Children and Exploited Children were likely CSEC victims. 1/3, was kind of astonishing to me as I was looking more into it, 1/3 of runaway youth will be solicited for sex work within 48 hours of leaving their home. That's just an average, but it's pretty high. 30% of shelter youth, so youth living in homeless shelters or DV shelters or group homes, and 70% of street youth were victims of commercial sexual exploitation. And then estimated age of entry into CSEC right now is around 12 to 14, 11 to 13. So just, keeping that in mind, the difference, human trafficking is more used in defining it for adults, and CSEC is more for youth or minors. How do we take that on like a national scale and bring it down to San Diego, right? Sex trafficking is the second largest underground economy after drug trafficking in San Diego, and it brings in an estimated $810 million per year. The FBI has identified San Diego to be among one of the most active CSEC areas in the United States, and California is one of the top 4 human trafficking destinations in the United States. And then in San Diego, there are an estimated 3,400 to 8,000 victims per year, with 80% being domestic. And we are learning there is a more significant amount of CSEC beginning to happen actually on high school and middle school campuses. So this kind of brings it from that national level back down to this, our own county, our own city level. And so I really want to talk about the intersections, not only of abuse, but of human trafficking, CSEC, and foster care and homelessness and at-risk youth. And I think this graph does a really good job of just kind of showing how all of these different definitions, all these different types of abuse and trafficking and exploitation kind of are intertwined and are connected. This is just kind of a good graphic, I think, for seeing like, okay, there's different layers to trauma and to trafficking and to sexual exploitation of youth and children. Okay. So who's at risk for CSEC? What kind of children? What are some of the factors that make or predispose children to be at risk for CSEC recruitment? Like I said, CSEC is anyone who is experiencing trafficking, essentially that's under the age of 18 years old. So they're all minors. So if they walk to school or to the store alone, unaccompanied minors, we'll talk a little bit about technology as we go, but having their own access to computer or, private access to tablets or phones or the internet in any way, shape, or form, it does put them at risk for recruitment. And we've seen that really increase a lot since COVID started. If they're attracted to consumer goods, and what this just means is nowadays kids want the latest and greatest items. They want their Nintendo Switch, or they want the newest iPhone 13. I think that's the newest one out. I feel like I'm aging myself. But youth really are into that, having name brands and having the newest and the greatest and the latest. And so if they're attracted to those things, that does put them at risk, because if they can't get them from their family or on their own, traffickers and those who are grooming children for trafficking will use those things to lure youth in. And then desire to develop romantic relationships at a young age, or just to feel loved and to belong and to connect. Insecurities, feeling misunderstood, conflict with parents, or just broken relationships with the adults in their lives. And then also the longing for independence and the desire to take risks and test boundaries. Some other risk factors can be prior abuse or neglect. It doesn't have to be, but that is a common one. Poverty, homelessness, which we're highlighting tonight, substance abuse, developmental disabilities, unaccompanied foreign national minors, any mental health concerns, and then child welfare or juvenile justice system involvement or foster care, and then feelings of any rejection or marginalization, which does bring me to the unique vulnerabilities of the LGBTQIA+ group. I do want to say that these youth, I want to highlight, they are even at a higher rate and a higher risk for being exploited and experiencing CSEC. A lot of these things they are marginalized, and they do feel misunderstood, and they do feel like they don't belong. So that's a big factor. They're disproportionately represented in child welfare, and among CSEC population, there's just a much higher population of them. They do experience rejection and abuse from family and community and in foster care as well. And then they do account for 40% of homeless runaway youth population. And then LGBTQIA+ communities of youth, actually, we are seeing are much more likely to engage in survival sex because they need housing. Maybe their parents put them out. Maybe they ran away because they weren't in a good environment, whether that's from their biological parents or foster care parents or adopted parents. We see them kind of fleeing home situations more frequently. And in survival sex is just really the trading of goods or services for sex. So that could be if they need food and someone's going to take them out to eat, the trade-off of those things so that they can survive, or if they're going to give them a place to stay for the night. So I just want to highlight that population as well. Okay, so a little bit of an introduction to the big intersection. According to National Foster Youth Institute, it is estimated that 60% of child sex trafficking victims have a history in the child welfare system. So that's over half of the kids that are in the foster care system. Human traffickers tend to, across the board, prey on people who are vulnerable. And so lots of different people can be vulnerable in different ways, but this is why foster children have a greater risk of becoming victims, because they have a lot of factors that make them a lot more susceptible to human trafficking. So some of those things I've listed here, we've talked a little bit about them, but maybe they're experiencing hopelessness or depression. Maybe they have previous trauma. Maybe they have ran away or repeated runaways from group or foster homes. And then young adults who are sent out of the foster care at the age of 18. This is a really big one. Youth age out of the foster care system. So, and we typically see that older youth do not get adopted as quickly as younger children. A lot of families want to adopt young children, so that they can be incorporated to the family early and at a young age. And so we do see our older youth, specifically like transitional aged youth. So anywhere between 12 to, that goes up to 25, but when they're in the system from 12 to 18, it's really hard for them to find adoptive parents. And so they're usually in a foster care placement. If they're turning 18, they're phasing out, and they don't have the support system or the connections maybe to land in a secure and safe place when they phase out. And so this leads to a lot of risks of homelessness, of instability. And so we do see that is something that really does feed the pipeline of human trafficking and CSEC. Traffickers really are on the lookout for and are preying on those youth that are phasing out of the foster care system at age 18. Like we said, homeless youth and especially LGBTQ. And then, there is like sometimes that idea that foster children have that they feel like they are just a paycheck to parents who have them. And so this, they're more attracted to the type of increased attention, like a lot of foster care youth have experienced. And honestly, youth nowadays, I think we're seeing it more and more, just feel neglected or are desiring more attention and, more lavished advances that human traffickers are willing to offer. So as we keep going, foster care is recognized nationally and in California as a pipeline for commercial sexual exploitation of children. In 2014, out of 1,607 cases of human trafficking involving minors reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 121 did reference experience within the child welfare system. And then 1 in 6 of the 18,500 runaways from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2016 were likely victims of CSEC, and 86% of those were in the care of social services when they went missing. And then also in California, 59% of children arrested in LA County for prostitution-related charges in 2010 were a part of the foster care system. So honestly, we really are seeing it just kind of increase over the years. And here's some more, we've kind of talked about these facts that most CSEC children have a history with CWS prior to their exploitation. They may experience an increase of victimization within foster care, because a lot of foster care kids do tend to AWOL or run away. They may leave their placement, which leaves them at the risk of being homeless. And then they are targeted by traffickers. So even in group homes, we're noticing that traffickers are taking note of group homes and where they're located and the youth that are being housed there, and they're definitely taking note of that, and they're staking those places out. So that kind of leads me into this. I do want to say, I think this is a great, I just created this little graphic to show, like, these are a couple of the processes that we see it happening most, is that maybe they're in foster care and then they run away, or they get removed, from housing, and then they become homeless, and then they're at risk of CSEC or HT. And then we could also see them aging out. Like I said, that's one of the most concerning ones right now that we're seeing. And then they become homeless and CSEC, or they're in foster care and then they're lured away by a trafficker. And then they end up experiencing CSEC or HT. So what are some of the approaches to recruitment? What are some of the ways of recruiting? We've seen it through parties, bus stops, and transition stations, malls, and other hangouts. I would say really over the past 2 years with COVID and the global pandemic, we've seen a lot of it through social media. I've done a different presentation specifically highlighting the risks of technology for youth and the increased access to technology that they have. And honestly, we saw a lot of traffickers move to the online platforms. They were already accessing those, like we know that they were already using those, but we saw a lot of that shift towards youth when youth were online for school, every day, 5 days a week. Traffickers took note of that and found a way to engage with students and with youth online, whether it be through social media or chat rooms or gaming apps, dating apps. There's so many avenues that we want to be aware of, and we want to make sure our youth are aware of, right? We want to make sure that they know that there are people who want to take advantage of them and who are, hoping to groom them or prey on them for their benefit. Then seduction and coercion, job postings for modeling or acting or dancing. Like I said, we have seen increased trafficking on high school and middle school campuses. Usually this is done through a trafficker luring a student into trafficking and then using that student to invite other students into it, typically is how we're seeing it. We're not really seeing the traffickers show up on campus in person, but we're seeing them create these pipelines by using students to recruit other students. And that really is through like glamorizing the lifestyle that like you can get what you want, you can make your own money, you can get the new phone, you can have access to the newest video games. It really is this glamorization that like, this is, you can be a business person, you can make your own money, you can be independent. So, and then like I mentioned previously, group homes, we know of traffickers who actually like wait outside of group homes for when kids get released, or they know that kids will AWOL, that they'll run away. And so they wait outside of group homes, not like directly outside, but nearby. And as the youth are running away, they don't know where they're going that night. They don't have a bed, they don't have food. So, that's a way that they hook them, like, let me get you some food, let me help you out, like I know some people. So things like that are what we're seeing. We have seen some churches and local gangs too. So that's a lot of information and it's heavy. Like, it's like, wow, this is happening like everywhere. So it's happening on a global and national level, and then it's happening right here in San Diego, and it's super concerning, right? So maybe you have seen some of the signs, like maybe you've seen, vulnerable youth, maybe people who are in the foster care system, maybe some of those youth go to your church, maybe some of you are teachers, maybe, whether you're a babysitter, a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, like you come in contact with youth, right? And so if you think someone is experiencing CSEC or HT or is at risk, the highest priority we would always say is safety. Is this youth in any immediate danger? How can you safety plan with them? How can you get them support? Also medical and mental health assessments, reaching out in the community, connecting them to the right services and providers who are really going to surround them and help them get back on their feet into a safe and stable place. And then referral to victim services as well. And then checking in with them, and giving them point people and connecting them to a larger community so that they're not just dependent on you for safety and security. And then report to appropriate agencies. You can call, 911 and report to the Human Trafficking Task Force. And we have that in San Diego, and my team is actually on call. I do like 3 to 4 on-call shifts a month where we go out. We're on call for 24 hours and we go out as a victim advocate with law enforcement when they get a call on the HT hotline. And so, report to agencies. And then I have provided here our intake line. So we do serve youth who are at risk, and then we also serve adults. So any victim of CSEC or human trafficking, Project Life will serve. And then I do want to talk a little bit about Lifespring. We have the good news is we have really great programs here in San Diego that want to help, that want to solve this problem. And I think Lifespring is another program at North County Lifeline, and they serve transitional aged youth, ages 16 to 27. And they have a drop-in center. It is in North County, this one is, and it is a place where any youth from age 16 to 27 can come, can take a shower, can get clean clothes, can do their laundry, can eat, can connect to case management services, all those types of things. And then Lifespring also has a transitional housing program for kids who are transitioning out of the foster care system or our former foster care youth. So they have an apartment complex that they partner with. And so that's a great housing program if you know youth who don't know what they're doing or where they're going next as they age out of the foster care system. I would highly recommend looking into Lifespring. They have a lot of other great services too. So even if they don't have availability in their housing right away, they would connect, this youth to case management and things like that, which would get them connected to a lot of other referrals and connections in the community. And if youth, I think we all know youth in our life who need help and need support. So this is just a way that you can engage them, right? We don't want to be like, social media is the worst, or, don't get on there. Like the overwhelming negativity or forcefulness of asserting our power or our opinion in the lives of youth, I think pushes them away a lot. So avoiding judgment, treating and acknowledging that maybe they have been a victim. Maybe they don't identify that way. Maybe they don't know that they were coerced or manipulated psychologically or physically, but giving them space to explore that with you and identify if they are a victim or not. And then recognizing their trauma symptoms, trauma bonding. Maybe they are in, a relationship cycle that is abusive and they don't know how to get out of it. Helping them come up with coping skills or connect with a therapist who can do that. Not disputing facts or their motivation or their awareness, just providing education and being a resource for them. And then improving the systematic response by creating interagency partnerships. So that's the other thing I'm excited about tonight, is that we're going to hear from Missy Bell too, because like I said, honestly, we can't end human trafficking if we don't if we don't work on foster care and if we don't work on other systems. So we all have to work together in order to, and if we don't work on youth homelessness, and if we don't work on all the different avenues in the pipeline that are relating to and bringing youth or adults into human trafficking. And so I think it's just really important we realize that, there's so many pieces of the puzzle and we all can plug in somewhere and help and slow the pipeline down and, really start to make a difference. So also creating multiple opportunities for the child to ask for help, and then being aware of anyone who is a camouflage trafficker, which just means, we think of traffickers as just, criminals or bad guys and that they fit this profile, but really we see a whole wide range of people who are involved in trafficking. So yes, there are your typical gang affiliated members who are doing trafficking, but we also see, some youth are trafficked by family members or close friends or their peers, like I said, on their school campus, luring them into the life of trafficking. So we want to be aware of, situations that maybe don't look like what we think would be trafficking, but are. So these are some of our community partners. We have so many, I can't fit them all on here. You can see them here. If you want their information, I have it. I'm happy to share it. We're so thankful for them. We could not do this work alone. It's so big. And I think, like I said, I'm so thankful that San Diego has all of these resources. I think it's how we're able to fight the evil of human trafficking, and it's how we're able to make a difference. And I think, like I said, the other thing I do want to highlight is, this is the hotline if you see anything, and then this is the text line. If you know anyone, if you see any unusual behavior, if you're suspicious, you can report, and it can be anonymous, and they will follow up and reach out to the victim. And then I think I really wanted to highlight these two resources. Like I said, Lifespring, which I mentioned through, and I'm sure there's tons of other really amazing programs for transitional age youth and for homeless youth and for foster care youth. But these are two that I know about and that I have clients who are in them and are thriving and doing really well. Particularly Project Life, we're partnering a lot more with our program Lifespring because we're noticing the frequency of foster care youth being trafficked. And so I have just an amazing story. I have one client, she recently she was adopted when she was 5, and she just recently was able to move out of her adopted household, and she moved into Lifespring's transitional housing, and she's creating her own home for the first time. She's really thriving. She's super connected at the drop-in center because they're in the same area. And so there she's getting groups, case management, access to food resources and to financial assistance. And so we've just seen over the past 3 months that she's been there, she's really started thriving and been able to go deeper in therapy and focus on other healing aspects of her journey because she's been so well supported by Lifespring. So I have nothing but good things to say about the drop-in center and their transitional living housing program. It's amazing. And then the Ymca is another one of our huge partners. If you don't know about their transitional age programs and drop-in centers and housing that's now available, I highly suggest that you look them up. I put the links here, and I can share this PowerPoint to be sent out to everyone. But yeah, it's just been, oops, I think I accidentally clicked something. Oh, I did want to show this. So this is, can you see this still? Okay, perfect. That was a great transition. Didn't even really mean to do that. But this is the Ymca for San Diego, their TAY services. And so they do things like street outreach, and then they do drive-through services, which are amazing. Youth can stop by, drive through, pick up things, water, food, sanitation. So they have different locations, as you can see here. So it's worth looking up if you know youth who need these kinds of resources. I highly suggest getting these to them. They have emergency housing assistance. I want to say in North County, they just opened up like 25 beds at their new location for transitional aged youth experiencing homelessness, which like at Project Life, we're stoked about because that means less youth on the street at risk of trafficking. And that's what we really support them. We love that. Yeah, and they have drop-in centers as well. So I just think it's worth looking up. If you know youth, give them these resources. So this one just opened up in North County, and Charity is amazing. She's such a great partner to work with. We love her. So yeah, there really are great resources, and that's why I was so honored to share today, because I really wanted to highlight these organizations that are doing the amazing work to slow down the trafficking of youth. And I just hope you guys you'll check them out, you'll look at them, and yeah, you'll dive deeper. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Katie. That was wonderful. That was a really solid introduction to this topic, to homelessness and all the vulnerabilities for youth. And I will do questions for both of you after Missy gets to present.
Yeah.
But I noticed Denise raised her hand, and I think she had a comment to add. Denise, did you still want to?
Oh yeah, Denise.
She's still here.
Hi guys. Yeah, great presentation, Katie. I just wanted to add, when you were talking about resources, and that these are fabulous. North County Lifeline is such a pioneer up in that, north area. I just wanted to also put on everyone's radar that we have that same similar replication here in San Diego. It's actually where I'm at right now, when we actually have youth doing art group as I speak, but I just wanted to bring that hope because like as we relay these resources and information, sometimes people might be like, oh, but it's all the way up north, you know, what's here, what's local. And so we have that same exact drop-in center here in San Diego available 7 days a week between the hours of 12 to 8. And that program is called Ymca. It's actually through San Diego Youth Services. All of the things that Katie kind of touched on with what they focus up north as far as case management, groups, independent living support and skills, just really hands-on, intensive victim-centered case management and support via therapy as well, and psychiatric support. We have all of that here in San Diego County for youth that are, you know, more down central. So just one, and we serve all of the county as well. But we do know that, you know, it's nice to have those availabilities up north, because if you're in Escondido or those kinds of Oceanside area, which we have clients that are, it just is, you know, more supportive and conducive to have something closer to that area. So I just wanted to add that on as you were mentioning things. Yeah.
Thanks, Denise. Yeah,
no problem.
SDY is a huge partner. I mean, they're listed on our whole list, you know, but that's, I mean, that's so great. I'm so glad you reminded me of that and highlighted that, because it is amazing work that you guys are doing. And we partner with Ymca all the time. So thanks, Denise.
You're welcome. I know, you know, but I just didn't know if folks here on the call would kind of be discouraged, like, oh, but it's all the way up north. It's like, no, we've got that same thing here. So just wanted to share that with everyone.
Thanks, Denise. Yes, resources all over the county. We love it. It's amazing how well they all work together too. We love to see that. All right, thank you so much, Katie. We'll circle back to you in a little bit. And for now, let's turn it over to Missy. And would you mind starting by telling us a little bit more about what you do with Olive Crest?
Sure. Well, I am so excited to be with you guys tonight. And thanks so much for the invitation to be here and to share. I am going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. And as I do so, I am going to share about the wonderful organization that I get to work with, which is Olive Crest. So Olive Crest, we have been in existence for about 50 years now. Our national headquarters is in Santa Ana. And Katie, I loved, first of all, phenomenal presentation. Second of all, I loved you hearing about Foster and Tay, as they're so near and dear to our hearts, as that's actually where we got our starting. We started with group homes in Santa Ana, and then we kind of expanded and kept adding programs. And in Santa Ana, we help shelter our Tay youth. We have Tay programs, but we're a licensing foster family organization first. But in San Diego, we have two programs, foster care and Safe Families for Children. And that's what I'm excited to share with you tonight, is about our Safe Families for Children program. Some 3 fast facts about me, so you guys feel like you know me. The most important things to know: 1 is, if I could have lunch with anyone tomorrow, it would be Miss Dolly Parton herself. 2, I think the best Marvel character is Captain America, hands down. And 3, I'm a San Diego native, but I'm a kind of a poor excuse for one, as I never learned to surf. So now I hope you know a little bit more about me, and you can trust me as we just continue on and as I share about Safe Families for Children. So to give you the 30,000 foot view, Katie covered so well about the problem that we're facing here in San Diego. I'm not going to try to replicate that. I knew she was going to come in strong with those stats, and so I'm so grateful for them. I'll cover a few. So we'll go over the problem, and then we're going to look at, it's called the Care Continuum. And we're going to look at the child welfare care continuum, and then we're going to look at Olive Crests and how they interact. And then we're going to look at how your church, if you are part of a faith community, can get involved today to care for these kids. So first of all, as Katie said, there is just startling statistics out there for those that have been a part of the child welfare system. So we heard, 60% will end up homeless within the first year. And we know that 60% will be incarcerated once they age out. In LA County, that actually raises to 80% of those currently incarcerated have been through the child welfare system. And then we know that those, like Katie said, that are currently being trafficked have experienced some time in the child welfare system as well. And so these statistics are startling and they're hard to grapple with. And sometimes people are like, well, where does that come from? Well, let's just take a look at this past year in San Diego. So there was, as you see in this graph, 62,000 children were reported to child welfare services. And I want to take some time for you to think about what it would take you to call that hotline. This isn't a scratch on a knee. This isn't, unwashed hair. This is a continual pattern that you've seen, and you're concerned that a child has been abused or neglected. Well, out of those 62,000 children, about 58% receive some investigation. So that means law enforcement gets involved and they investigate, they see what's going on. But of that 58%, only 1% of children receive services. So that means that they get placed into foster care. And these stats, this statistic is essentially what drove the founder of Safe Families for Children to do something. Dr. Anderson in 2003 was working at a foster agency, much like Olive Crest, and he was tired of receiving phone calls from families that were in crisis, but weren't in crisis enough. A few years back, the county changed its vocabulary, its vernacular to say, children that are abused and neglected to children that are blatantly abused and neglected, because there's so many children that unfortunately struggle and are abused and neglected. So Dr. Anderson was tired of getting those phone calls and he wanted to do something. And so he started Safe Families for Children. So it's a national program. And in the West, it's seconded to Olive Crest. So Safe Families for Children is a wonderful program that I get to help lead and invite churches into, but most don't really have the context for what it is. So I like to explain what the Care Continuum is. And so if we understand foster care as intervention, right, the government has had to step in and remove children because of abuse and neglect. Safe Families for Children, we go upstream and we say, what if we were able to wrap these families with support and care so that they didn't continue down the continuum? And then you'll see at the end of that continuum is restoration, which are ministries like transitional living programs, education services, and sex trafficking recovery. So most would know that in San Diego as a program like Generate Hope. Katie mentioned that with one of the programs that they work with. So that would be a restoration ministry. But we that participate with Safe Families for Children say, what if we were able to go all the way at the beginning and wrap families in support and in love and in care so that their children didn't have to continue down the continuum. So Safe Families for Children offers temporary hostings for children under 18 whose families are in crisis and would benefit from their children being cared for by a screened and approved host family for a short period of time. So a hosting can look like one night up to 90 days. Our average age of children we serve is 4 3/4. And if you work with children, you know that 3/4 is very important, which is why we include it. And our host families go through an application process, which is about 1 month in length, and it includes things like general application, family evaluation, a live scan to make sure that our families are indeed safe. They go through a 6-hour online training, and then it concludes with a home study when our clinician, Monty, who we affectionately refer to as Gandalf because he's so wise, sits with you as a host family and gets to know you, and you get to know Safe Families, and you also get a training on what it's like to care for children who have been through trauma, because the children that are in this program have been through trauma. And so Safe Families for Children is really a movement of compassion and faith. It's a mobilization of the church to be in the forefront for caring for children who are in crisis. So one story that I was actually recently a part of was just a few months back. We have a 24/7 hour hotline that a mom, I use the verbiage mom because the dad is 99% not in the picture. So most people ask me that, where's the dads? And I say, well, I talk about the mamas because those are the ones that we typically serve. So a mama gave us a call and she just had a baby. She was still in the hospital and she was getting discharged but she was unfortunately unable to go home until a paternity test was proven. And so not having a place to go or set up, she was referred to us at Safe Families. And so I rushed there and I'm sitting with her. And, you know, it's, I think those intakes, I call them holy ground, because we serve moms who are in the most vulnerable times of their lives, you know, trusting and putting full faith in strangers. And so she was there with her infant, and she loved him and wanted to keep him. But she just needed to figure some things out before she could return home with them. And so I called one of our host families in North County who lives 15 minutes away from the hospital. And I said, there's an infant who needs some love and care. And they said, we're on it. And so for the next 30 days, this host family took care of the baby while the mom figured out a few things. And it was also during that time, I think what's beautiful about Safe Families is that some families really love, care, and support and dive into coming alongside the bio mom. And so the host family was able to go to some doctor's appointments with the bio mom and really be her advocate in a really vulnerable time. So that is the ministry and the work of Safe Families for Children. And like I mentioned, it is the mobilization of the local church. And we believe that it's the local church that is the hope of the world. And so it's an honor to help churches build those ministries within their church. So you heard about the Care Continuum with in child welfare, but Olive Crest's Care Continuum kind of looks like this. So we come alongside children and families who are in crisis, and we give them the support of a safe home for their kids. And we equip them for life. And so we come alongside moms and we give them resources, much like the ones that you heard Katie share. We interact and we care for the mom on the basis that she's at. Sometimes moms need us because they are unsheltered. And sometimes moms need us because they're going to rehab, court-ordered rehab, and they need a place for their child to go. If that child isn't hosted, most often the only other option then is foster care. And once a child is in foster care, they're in foster care for on average between 18 and 24 months. I think technically you can be in foster care from one night up to 3 years, but what we see on average is 18 to 24 months. And so Safe Family steps in because we really want to do all that we can to keep families together with that safe and stability. And we help equip them and provide them resources. And then at the end, the goal is strong families. As you saw, I think on the first slide, the vision of Olive Crest is to have a strong family for every child. And we do that in San Diego through foster care and through Safe Families for Children. So we say everyone can do something. What's your something? You'll hear that in Olive Crest's office a lot. So what's your something? And so we try to break that into 3 easy ways because we know the problem can be overwhelming and how to step in can also be overwhelming. So we try to break that down for you. And so the first way is by becoming a family. And then really that's opening your heart and your home to the children of families in crisis. We have around 70 host families here in San Diego. And we have some phenomenal church partners. And we bridge all of San Diego. So you'll see us in North County, you'll see us in Central, you'll see us in South. And we're really praying about stepping more into South County and gaining some more contacts there. But I think of a family in Encinitas. They're one of our all-star host families. And she was sharing with me the other day that when they take on hostings, they sit down as a family, and her husband often says, he makes a point of saying every time to their hosted child that you're welcomed here. That's really important for him to say. I think he took a note from Bob Goff, and he just says to the child, you're welcome here. And one of their last hostings, her husband was at work. And so she has 2 bio kids, and they were in the car, and the hosted child was in the car driving to his temporary home with this hosted family. And she said he was just mortified. He was just terrified. And he was just really scared, and she could sense that in the van. And so when they pulled up to their house, the kids hopped out and they went and her son went to go play with him, play with Legos. And so she said she was outside of his room, just pacing, as a mom does, and just trying and thinking and praying and, hoping that this little boy would feel comfortable in her home. And she said after about 5 minutes of silence, she heard her little boy turn to the hosted child and say, you're welcomed here. And she said it was in that moment that she knew that it was the culture of her family had shifted. There was also, she got to see her little boy also on mission with her parents. I think often we're nervous that it's just the parents' mission, but actually Safe Families for Children is a family mission and a family value. So you can become a host family, and you can also become a friend. And a friend is wrapping kids and families with burden-bearing love. And so those that are friends of Safe Families for Children, they bring host families meals. And then there's some that should never bring a meal. And so instead they mow a lawn, or they provide babysitting. They go through the extra steps of being cleared to babysit. And these things are so important to a host family because if you can imagine your family expanding overnight, that's what happens to these host families. And so alleviating some of that, that pressure and that burden are the ways that friends can get involved with Safe Families for Children. And the last way to get involved is by becoming a champion. And so your acts of kindness will serve families in crisis, allowing them to strengthen and connect to a loving family. Olive Crest and the work that we do, we're able to do the work that we do because of generous community partners. And so we love our champions and our families and our friends. So everyone can do something. What's your something? And in fact, I'm not sure if she wants me to share, but Rihanna's mom is actually a host family in North County. And she has a wild story of in and of herself, but we love her dearly. And we love all of the families that open their home for this movement of faith and compassion as they just welcome in children into their lives, and they welcome their moms into their lives as well. So that's about Safe Families for Children. That's a bit about Olive Crest. Those are some tangible, practical ways. And if you are interested in becoming a host family, I hope you let me know. And if your church is interested in becoming a Safe Families for Children church in Olive Crest supporter, I'd love to talk to you and figure out a ministry plan to work alongside you and mobilize your community to care for kids. So, questions and answers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Missy. That was excellent. A great introduction to Safe Families. Such an amazing program. And yes, my mom is a host and she has had an incredible experience. She had a birth mom, a single mom, and her baby living with her for a year or two while she got her feet on the ground. So that was an incredible experience for my mom, as well as the wonderful woman that she had living with her. So great success story, hopefully there for everyone. It's an awesome program. Since we have kind of a smaller group here on Zoom, if anyone has any questions for Katie or Missy, you're more than welcome to throw them in the chat. But you could also unmute yourself or raise your hand and ask any questions, or if you have any comments. If you have someone at your church that you think would need to kind of be connected to Safe Families in order for that to happen, this is a great time to kind of chat about that and really figure out what that process would look like. So I'll stop talking so that if any of you have any questions, you can ask your question.
Hi, this is Victoria. I actually have a question for Katie that I put in the chat there. I don't know if you had a chance to see it yet, Katie, but how like we work with the homeless every Wednesday afternoon. We feed in Carlsbad, and just yesterday, there was a young girl, 22, and she and her two younger brothers are on the streets, and they were looking for vouchers and other resources. How would we direct them to the Lifespring drop-in or Lifespring drop-in center?
Yeah, so I did see your question in the chat, Victoria. Thank you. I'm going to put this link in the chat if you can click on that. And then I'll also put, I think I had it in my presentation, but I'll just I'll just copy it and paste it into the chat so that you have it, but this is their intake line. And so if you just have the youth, I would give the youth this number and have them
Okay.
call it, and then they'll get the address for the drop-in center. And it's in Vista area. So it's really close by to our Vista main office is 200 Michigan Avenue in Vista, California. And so it's really close by to there. It's on a surrounding street. So that would be the best way. And they could do an intake, with the drop-in center. And it sounds like this youth in particular, as long as you know the age range from 16 to 26 or 27, and that they're experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, they would fit the criteria to go to the drop-in center.
Okay. And then one other quick question about that then, or two other really quick questions. Do you all have people that can provide transportation to pick them up, or is that something that has to be arranged separately?
That's a great question. So, things with COVID have changed a lot. We honestly, with most of our programs at North County Lifeline, we've done client transportation as long as it's not a minor. We don't transport minors for plenty of legal reasons. But we do have avenues. We do have agency cars that we can use. And then we also do, with COVID, we have Ubered or, gotten bus passes for people, or figured out alternate ways of public transportation for whoever needs to get there. So I know that if the youth calls that intake line, then they'll get connected with a case manager, and the case manager will work with them to get them resources to get over there. So that would be something that they could, identify as a need in order to access the drop-in center.
Okay. And then my last question, I promise I'm not going to hog, or actually two. And it's just meant to be drop-in, right? Is there a window,
Yeah.
You've got to, after 6 hours you need to leave, or?
No, there's no time limit. I'm trying to remember their hours. I want to say are either 8 or 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. So it isn't open super late in the evening. So I would say that I think the hours are condensed right now because of COVID and staffing. But yeah, I mean, the great thing about the drop-in center is they can come, they can hang out all day, between those hours, and they usually have a meal. There's food, there's a food pantry, there's a shower, there's a bathroom, there's a technology room. So you can get on the computer, apply for benefits, look for low-income housing. And then there's case managers and there's support groups. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything, but essentially, if they get to the drop-in center, they'll be connected to a lot of other really great resources that will wrap around them, and hopefully move them, from homelessness or risk of homelessness to a more stable and self-sufficient place. That's the hope.
Perfect. Okay, great. And I promise my very last question, and that's it, is if there are signs of visibly being high or on drugs, are they not accepted then?
No.
Okay.
Okay. And it would probably be addressed by a case manager, would want to address if they need substance use treatment. With a lot of our programs, we're definitely client-centered. And so we don't want to turn anyone away, but we'd want to get them connected to the right resources if they're open and willing, as long as they're not dangerous or a threat or a safety concern to anyone. That would be our priority, is getting them connected to substance use services, if they're open to it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Those were excellent questions, Victoria. Thank you so much for those. Any other questions for our speakers here? While people are thinking, Katie, I'm also curious, you mentioned a lot of different programs and how to get youth connected, but I'm curious if people want to volunteer or donate items or support the work of North County Lifeline and the different programs that you mentioned, how could people get connected to those?
Yeah, so we will take any and all kind of support and donation. I guess I didn't do a pitch for that. Volunteering, it is a little bit different with North County Lifeline. We do have a volunteer training program that you have to go through just because of the different at-risk populations that we do work with. So there's background checks and trauma-informed training and everything that goes into that. So it does, if you are interested in volunteering, it would just take a little bit, like, to get all of that processed and to get you signed up for the next volunteer training. We have people who volunteer their skills, their time, their money. Recently I worked with like a bilingual speech pathologist who wanted to lead. She's a parent and she wanted to lead groups for our parent clients, with Project Life. And that was just amazing. She wanted to lead them for our Spanish speaking clients specifically because she's bilingual. And so that was phenomenal. So we got her through the training background check, so things like that. Or honestly, we are looking for all different types of partnerships, whether it's if you're a massage therapist and want to donate, trauma-informed massages for our clients who carry a lot of their trauma in their body, they can't afford those kinds of treatments. Or maybe you're an auto mechanic. Honestly, all of our clients' cars are low cost and they need work. And that's something that costs a lot of money that they don't have right out the gate, but they need transportation so they can get back into, work and take their kids to school and things like that. So really any skill that you have or any expertise, if time, is something you have and you're willing to donate that. I was just thinking even like a hair salonist, a lot of our clients want to change their appearance, whether that's cutting their hair or dyeing it, for safety reasons, and then also just for self-esteem. And that's something we're always looking for. So there's different, feel free to email me or call me if there's a way that, you have a specific skill or expertise you'd like to donate. And then financially, we do, our funding is grant funded and then private funding. So it's a nice little mix. We love our private funding though, because it's unrestricted and we can use it to help our clients in any way that they need, which always feels amazing. So if you do want to donate financially, I would have you reach out to our financial guru, Shannon. So you could just email me and then I'll connect you with her and she'll get you all set up with donating. You can also do it on our website. That's probably the easiest way. And you can pick which programs you want to donate to. So that's unique that you can do that. Yeah, I don't know if that covers it.
I'm sure there's so many more ways to get involved, but I love
any idea you have, run it by me. I'd love to hear it. We always need more supportive people in the lives of our survivors.
And Katie, did you put your email in the chat? If not,
I think I did. I will. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. And then if there's any other questions, please put those in the chat or go ahead and unmute yourself and ask that. But, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I was wondering if either Katie or Missy could give me an idea of what percentage of the clients that you help are boys.
Yeah, so for Safe Families for Children, it's 52% females, the actual children, and then the rest are boys. So it's a fair share, it's just children. So.
Okay, thanks.
I'm so glad you asked that, Gary, because we at Project Life, we do really pride ourselves on getting to help male survivors. We're one of the only programs in San Diego County that serves male survivors of human trafficking. And so currently right now, actually, we serve people, we have a housing program, a small housing program, and we serve them. And then we also serve clients all over the county in different housing programs, independent living, low-income housing, all of those things. But in statistic wise, I don't know if I can give a real stat or percentage, just because I don't have that number, if I'm being honest. But right now we do have, in our housing, we have 8 apartments and 2 are 1 bedroom and 6 are 2 bedroom apartments. And right now I'm trying to think, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 males in our housing. And then I know we have several other male clients who are, living on their own or living in a different, a different setting. But, we typically are serving, a percentage of male survivors, and always hoping for more. We're like really glad that we can serve that population. And we are seeing more males identify as victims. And we did just, our percentage would have been up a little, but we just had 2 males move out into a successful, like, independent living situation. So yeah, I don't know if that helps. And I could look into it too, if you want.
That helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we got a question in the chat. Missy and Katie, do either of your organizations have associations in New Orleans or partners that you know about in that area?
I am almost positive we're in Louisiana, but I'm not sure if we're in New Orleans. So Diane, if you direct message me your email, I'd love to find out that information for you and get it to you, because there might be a Safe Families for Children program there.
Yeah, Project Life itself doesn't reach that far. And I'm trying to think. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I do know that there are trafficking, prevention and recovery programs in Louisiana. And I'm sure there are some near New Orleans. And honestly, I could, like Missy said, I could probably relay those to you. I just don't know them off the top of my head in that area.
That's great. Okay, last call for questions. Let me give you a minute in case anyone else has anything. Okay, and then Missy gave an incredible pipeline in order to get involved with Safe Families for Children. And my hope is that everyone on this call goes home. You're probably already at home since you're on Zoom, but tomorrow finds their pastor, gets in touch with their church staff and says, how can we become Safe Families as a church and get our church involved? And then they're going to email you, Missy. So hopefully tomorrow your inbox will be flooded with people interested and trying to get involved with Safe Families to prevent kids from entering the system and really nipping that vulnerability in the bud. So that's my hope and wish for all of you on this call tonight. And Katie and Missy gave so many amazing ways to get involved. Oh, that's awesome to hear from Victoria that they had a great experience with Safe Families. Yes, I know lots of churches who are involved, and that's a phenomenal program. So get involved, go ahead and reach out to your church staff team and get in contact with Missy. And would you all join me in thanking Missy and Katie for spending their Thursday night with us? Go ahead and put a little word of appreciation in the chat for them, or some little clapping hands in your Zoom window. We are just so thankful for them and their time tonight. Let me go ahead. Perfect. Oh, I love it. Thank you you knew exactly what I meant for that. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to throw something in the chat and then I'm going to share my last slide for this evening. Our speakers mentioned a ton of ways to respond. So I'm going to go ahead and send out an email afterward to we had a ton of folks register for this, but I know it's late on a weeknight and I totally get it. So we'll send out the recording. We'll send out all the ways to get involved. And on the Churches Against Trafficking website, we do have a whole page of action steps, including one specifically dedicated to supporting vulnerable youth experiencing homelessness and foster care. There's a video from some folks at San Diego Youth Services giving a summary of this topic, and you're welcome to share that. Please, please do. And then there's a whole list of ways to get involved, like getting involved with Project Life and Safe Families. So that link is in the chat. Make sure you visit that page and share that with people you know. And As a cat network, we are here to be a resource to you. So if there's anything you're looking for and you can't find, or opportunities that you know about that someone else might want to know about, please send those my way. You can always email cat@churchesagainsttrafficking.com and I will see if I can help. And then we would just love to stay in touch. So subscribe to those cat newsletters and follow Cat on Facebook. We like to post helpful things. Hopefully they're helpful to you. But we're going to wrap up this quarterly meeting by spending a few moments in prayer. We have two volunteers, Gary and Katrina, who are going to pray for us if you would like to follow along. So Gary, I'll pass it over to you. And then when you're done, Katrina, you can go ahead and close us out.
All right, thank you, Rihanna. Join me as we pray. Heavenly Father, what an amazing time we've had tonight as we've listened to both Katie and Missy share about the good things that they are doing and the way that they are reaching out to people who are hurting. Lord, I want us to focus first on you and express our thanks to you for who you are and what you've done for us. You are an amazing God. You are full of love and mercy and goodness and faithfulness. We thank you that you are a God of mercy, but also a God of justice and righteousness. Your word tells us in Ecclesiastes 5:7 that we should stand in awe of you. So Lord, help us to know you well enough that we would be in awe of who you are. Don't let us forget that you are all-knowing, all-powerful, that you are always present wherever we are, no matter what is going on around us. You are always available to help us when we cry out to you for help, for strength, for wisdom, for guidance, and forgiveness. David reminds us in Psalm 103 that you do not treat us as our sins deserve or repay us according to our iniquities, and that you have compassion on those who fear you. So we thank you, Lord, for being such a loving and gracious God. Lord, I want to thank you for Katie and Missy and the work that they're doing. Lord, thank you for all the staff and the volunteers that are working so hard on behalf of those who are in need of healing in their lives. Lord, we know that we have an enemy that is working against us. I pray that you would protect each one of these dear people, protect them from the evil one and his attacks, protect them from his efforts to bring discouragement and despair. Lord, your word tells us that he is a liar and that he only seeks to kill and destroy. I ask you to place a hedge of your protection around each one of these dear people. Keep them strong, keep them safe, help them to serve from a place of humility. Give them your love and compassion for those they are serving. Give them wisdom and guidance in every decision they are faced with. Help them as they work to provide encouragement to those who are feeling desperate and afraid. Use them, Lord, to give courage to those who need to continue to move forward and not give up. Father, I also pray for those who are trapped tonight and are under the influence of those who are only out to take advantage of them. Lord, help them to know that you are right there with them, that you understand what they are going through, and that you are always there for them if they call out to you. Father, I pray for those who are in need of your healing touch in their lives. Protect them from the lies of the evil one. Help them to go to you and your word for answers. Help them to find hope and strength in you. Help them to understand that you are there to help them find wholeness and healing that only you can provide. Jesus said in Luke chapter 4 that he came to bring good news, to proclaim freedom for those who are oppressed. Help those who have been harmed to trust you, to bring justice to those who deserve it, and to believe that someday you will repay all those who have done evil in your sight. Father, in closing, we thank you once again for who you are. You are the one who is able to keep us from falling and to present us before your glorious presence without fault and with great joy. To you, God, our Savior, be glory, majesty, power, and authority through Jesus Christ our Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for the resources to meet with these people who share your heart, to love everyone in our communities. Thank you for the brave individuals who are willing to share their stories and their experiences, however painful they may be, that they know that those experiences will help others. You are a God of justice and a God of compassion. You're a God of grace and of peace. Please continue to provide opportunities for all of us to further engage in meaningful discussion and action. While working towards justice, help us to remember that you are ultimately in control, and please give us the perseverance to help even when it's not convenient. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Katrina and Gary. And thank you to all of you for being here tonight. Again, I am just so grateful that you all would choose to learn more about this topic and dive into the injustices in our community on your weekday work night. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all of you. And we look forward to seeing you all in January for Human Trafficking Awareness Month. So until then, please stay in touch and have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next time.